Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Kevin Drina, and today we're going over the concept of the structural aspect of life. So let's back out. Welcome to the live, the recording actually, and I'm going to be going and talking about the four foundations of life. We have our structural life, we have our psychological life, we have our biochemistry, biochemical life, and we have our electrical life. And these are the four realms when it comes to the considerations of healing and specifically natural healing that I'm going to be reviewing in a more diligent way here and posting on different socials and lives. So that being said, today's topic, we're going to be going over the general philosophy and then the structural component and what I have for you to be aware of. So first, let me share this. So this is a graphic on my app, and let me zoom in the picture of the better view here. Well, it's sort of better, but there's four foundations, and the concept here is that we have these different areas of life. Now, as if you don't know who I am and what I've accomplished in life here, I am a doctor of chiropractic, and I got my doctorate in 2006. And that really is about how to work the physical tissues, the structures, the bone, the spine, and in relationship to affecting the brain, the spinal cord, the central nervous system, the peripheral nervous system. And the reason that is the focus is because that was what has been realized and then now has been discovered is essentially the grand communicating tissue that organizes, adapts, responds, analyzes what's going on in the body and around the body. And so, what is so important to begin to prioritize is, well, how do we make effective change to help people be better in their life? And so, there's really two paths which I believe are the primary focus. One is from the mind outward to the body, and then one is the structural changes that need to occur to affect the mind, the brain, the spinal cord tissue. And so let me share this image. Get back in the view here, and I'm going to expand a little bit so we can get all the experience that we need to get into. So here I have a picture of a spine, and what I'm going to be talking about has to do with a posture correction method. And the reason the posture correction method is so vital is that it looks at the whole body as a whole. It reviews the whole skeletal structure as one unit, and that's not what I was taught to analyze in my training when it came down to different techniques. And where I was in the path of study was pretty much getting what's called diversified training. I had some training on upper cervical techniques. I have some training on other things that are taught in Palmer College as the Palmer package, Thompson and Cox techniques. And with that being said, when I finished my training at my doctorate program, I was working at a clinic that focused on posture correction. And so I was introduced to a whole new world of techniques that are taught beyond traditional training. And they have different names, and some of them seem to get better results in my personal experience than others. And so I've really been honing in on one specific method when it comes to helping the body stand up straight from this position. Let's find a second position to this position in an automatic way. So the key to knowing if you've gotten your posture corrected is is that your shoulders relax automatically. Your breathing is able to open and expand more easily. You don't have to hold your posture up. When that adjustment, when that correction is made, your body stands with more balance, stands with more ease, and there's different tests to indicate that is true. And so what makes the difference in other techniques that I've studied that I participate in, that I look at the research of, and compare to the technique that I'm discussing now, which is called advanced biostructural correction. What's the difference? Well, there's a discovery made in the late 90s by a brain surgeon. And this had to do with someone who was getting a numbness and tingling down in one of their extremities. And I believe the research was done on a leg, actually. And in surgery, the brain surgeon had cut a tissue in the spinal cord that, through his analysis and his theories and practices and experience, decided that this was the point where the tissue was being restricted, that was affecting the tissue. And for those that don't know, um, there is a chart uh, where it demonstrates the nerve that goes out of the spine, which originates in the brain, goes out of the spine, and then goes out to a zone of the area, and the sensation of the area is tracked to a specific nerve root. So, for example, we have C4 and C5 and C6 along the top part of the arm. And there's other nerves with C7 and T8 and T1 that finish the other part of the nerve. So depending on where you get your numbness pattern, we can decipher which nerve is involved and where that nerve has an origin exiting the spinal structures. And the spinal structures, of course, are serve a couple purposes. One is for protection of the sensitive nerve tissue. Two is to provide stability for muscles to have leverage. Three is to provide the structural capabilities of movement and walking, locomotion. And it serves as a energetic resource with energy. And biochemically, it serves as a resource of certain minerals and nutrients. And so, keeping focused on the topic at hand, what the discovery was made was that when that brain surgeon cut a tissue that's inside the spinal column, it's called the meningeal tissue, that the numbness and the tingling immediately went away. Well, that's great, and this discovery opened the door for a chiropractor who was an engineer who understood how to x-ray appropriately and do proper x-ray studies, took this knowledge of the research, understood the anatomy, and looked at what in the anatomy can be addressed that would affect the tissue, which would therefore affect the neuropathy, the numbness, tickling in the extremity. And what he discovered in his x-ray analysis is that there was a simple fact missed by all of the body corrective techniques and practices out there, from physical therapy, orthopedics, chiropractic. They missed a simple fact that when one reviews the anatomy with new eyes, so to speak, you can see exactly what he's talking about. It makes 100% sense, and he's 100% accurate. That's a quite the statement by someone's theories that became accurate information that now is a technique that's been producing providers 13, 14, 15 years, perhaps a little bit longer. And this knowledge is not taught in the traditional curriculum for doctors of chiropractic, definitely not physical therapists, definitely not orthopedics. It's something that those that are interested and those who have the passion and desire to learn this knowledge, that want the keys to help people in more effective, efficient, and accurate ways, we get this method. And so back to the picture here. Having someone, and the instructions for this picture, and having someone having the ability to stand in this manner after a single session, has to do with this finding that this Dr. Jukowitz realized and dedicated his life to developing proof and developing the capabilities of teaching and the development of practical refinements and in the release of the tissue, also known as in this. So what we're talking about here is the spinal structure and the meningeal tissue. If you've heard of meningitis, you have a reference of a term. However, what itis refers to inflammation, and then well, what is meningeal? No, meningitis. My gosh, got tongue twisted there in trying to share meningitis. So, what is the menin? That was the root word, and that's meningeal tissue, and that tissue is inside the spinal canal. So these bones, I don't know if you can see my, I don't know if you can see my, step I hone in. What I'm referring to is inside. I hope that comes through okay. I don't know if it's coming how it looks. When it comes to the spinal column, the white bones that make an S curve up and down, comes to that picture. Inside there, in fact, let me zoom out here. I'll show you something.